Hello. Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to Palantalk on Banner and Backbone. I am Nick Paro, joined by my I think somebody has audio unmuted, or is that me?
Is it
That's
me?
weird. It might be you. I'm hearing a
I
duplicate. Can anyone hear a second audio, or is it just me? It might just be
just
me, which would
okay.
probably mean it's my audio duplicating itself, so that's fine. Anyway, welcome everyone to Banner and Backbone's Palantalk. It is Monday before Thanksgiving,
Yes, sir.
and we are going to have a really good discussion today. I'm Nick Perro. I'm joined by my friend Shane Yirak. Oh, that's why it's going. It's auto playing on my other thing. That's so weird.
Oh, you had another
Joined by
Substack
my
tab open. There you
yeah,
go. That'll do
yeah,
it. I'll like
friggin'
panic. I'll do the same thing.
the the tech bros are out to get
The
us.
tech bros are out to get us. Substack is fallen.
Substack
It's all gone.
As I try again today, we are welcoming on a special guest today is Marlon Weems.
Marlon
From
Weems.
the Journeyman, and most of you have seen Marlon before if you follow me, or just seen Marlon anyways because he's all over Substack these days now.
You've
He was
visited
on with me last week,
lately.
and it's great to see you again, Marlon. Can you introduce yourself for everyone so that the Banner and Backbone crowd gets to know who you are?
Sure. I'm really stoked to be on today. Well, I really don't mind talking about anything to do with Peter Thiel. So
You and me have that in
so
common.
that's going to be fun. So the Journeyman is a newsletter that I started about 5 years ago on Substack back in the days when it was just a platform to email people, and none of this other fun stuff existed. The My background is finance. I started off in the early '80s as a mortgage-backed security salesman. So I guess to that extent, I am responsible for the great financial crisis.
You got the scoop. You got the scoop.
We've got the
Yeah.
insider scoop.
So yeah, I I guess about 15 years in, I kind of did it backwards. Most people leave Wall Street and go somewhere smaller, and I kind of did it the other way around. Um, and I spent a little over a decade on Wall Street, mostly running advanced trading operations like well, if you've ever heard of program trading or anything like that, that was kind of my specialty. Um, so got an interesting opportunity to deal with a lot of the people, either directly or indirectly, that we kind of talk about now. And I guess 2012 just you know one financial crisis too many. We just said the hell with it and moved to North Carolina, and so and so here I am, and I generally write about those experiences and kind of try to fold it in with what's happening right now and just sort of try to share my perspective, and hopefully it makes some sense. I think just I'm kind of an odd duck in the sense that I'm one of the few progressive ex Wall Street traders that you're probably going to run into, and I'm black, so I don't know if y'all have noticed that, but yeah, that too. So you put all those things together, and I think it gives me hopefully an interesting vantage point from
And
which to write.
Absolutely.
And you were the first from last week. You were talking about it. Is you were the first black trader out of Arkansas too? Uh,
Well, actually, I started an investment firm in Arkansas, and that was the first black-owned firm in the state. And oddly, nobody was happy about it.
I was going to ask, what was your
There was
experience
no red
in
carpet
Arkansas?
rolled out like I expected, and I don't know. It was such a surprise.
So, very shocking.
Mhm.
I love the state of Arkansas. I live in the state of Arkansas.
You live in the good part, though.
I live in one of the parts that are not sundown towns, because
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
still sundown towns in the state of Arkansas and other places. And for
there
those
are.
what a sundown town is, it means if you ain't white and the sun goes down, you better not
Right.
be there.
That's what I thought, but I was.
It's the
No,
all
it's a
white
real thing.
AKA style.
Oh
One of the
man.
few times that I can recall seeing my parents like afraid was, you know how, oh, well, back in the day, you get in the car on Sunday or on Saturday and drive around and take the scenic routes and have a picnic. And this is before cell phone. We're talking about the 60s, late 60s. And they screwed around and got lost and ended up in Harrison, Arkansas.
Ooh,
So Nick, you you
oh,
know what that means. And they
yeah.
were really trying hard not to let us kids know that they knew they were in trouble.
Wow.
I mean, but
Yeah.
they got away. I mean, they made it out without incident. But if that tells you anything, and Harrison is not much better than that from what I've read.
No, no. It's though Harrison did have a No Kings rally.
Whoa.
I think they had No Kings for both of
Okay.
the events. Um, so people are starting to come out of the woodwork and push back. I think we're starting to find that there are places in Arkansas that have historically been really, really bad. Where I think people are the young, especially the younger generation, are fed up with it, and they're fed
Mm.
up with like being isolated and being shitty all the time, or feeling like they're shitty when they're not, or they don't want to be. And so I think a lot of people are starting to push back. At least I hope. I know there's been some really good gains in Arkansas uh, uh, towards those ends, but there's also been some really big losses. So, um, you know, we get some, we lose some, we win some. Um, and but that's not what we're here to specifically talk about today. Is racism out of Arkansas, because that's not just an Arkansas thing. That's a pretty
It's not
American
going
thing.
anywhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
we can get to
We're
that later.
not gonna tackle that
I mean,
today.
the people we're going to talk about, they're still racist.
Oh yeah,
Like that's the racism is a persistent theme with these assholes. But just look at
yeah.
fucking Thiel's dad. It just, he's raised on
You know,
that shit. So it just keeps going.
yeah, and so one of the things, so today's topic is two topics really. It's Peter Thiel and the finances,
Yeah.
because they are intertwined with each other, but they're also separate from each other. Because finances don't always just mean what Peter Thiel is doing, and how he's affecting everything in the world and the market, because he's pretty behind the scenes powerful and has a lot of influence. But Marlon sent me an article, his article from November 23rd, so yesterday, um, on a macro event that nobody is talking about, which is the October jobs report. And I wanted to get into the finances and the money there and what that means for just everyday Americans, and how it's going to impact us, but what it might be telling about. And Marlon, I want you to talk about this. And Shane, you also wrote an article that spoke on this. So I'd love to hand the conversation over to the both of you to dig into your articles and see what you both have to say on it. Because we're being lied to. And there's misinformation and disinformation that's coming out. Um, and I want to make sure everybody knows the truth and what's going on and how this impacts us. So, Marlon, I'm actually going to switch over to our next screen here for you, which has your article pulled up, which is the macro event nobody is talking about. And I'll even get the QR code on the screen for it. So if anyone wants to visit that, please hit that QR code, go like and share this article so others can see it too. And Marlon, can you talk a little bit about it? And then Shane, jump on in.
Sure. I guess I should preface it by saying that, I am not. I always tell people I'm not an economist. I didn't even play one on television. But what a lot of folks don't realize about the world of trading that I came from is that you spend about as much time reading economic reports and that sort of thing. I probably spend more time doing that than actually trading, especially towards the end, because everything is automated. You're using a ton of algorithms. And so if I were, I don't know, handling what we call a basket, which might be 1,000 different stocks that I'm trading all at once, I'm trading on a strategy, and that's sort of just on autopilot, and I just make sure nothing goes wrong. So anyway, all that to say, I have a pretty good handle on, especially BLS, because those reports, especially the one that I'm talking about here, which is related to what's called the employment situation report, which we call it the jobs report. First Friday of every month, that report, since going back to the 40s, is where the Bureau of Labor Statistics basically gives us the full picture on jobs for the previous month. And the way that they come up with that is, and really, I should say there are some, private companies that do this, like ADP. Everybody's kind of heard of. The Challenger Jobs Report is another source of information, but they just don't have the bandwidth that the federal government's got. That is, they do household surveys and they survey private businesses. And, it's a blast that takes, I would imagine, hundreds of people within the government to do that. Okay, so as of the shutdown, or because of the shutdown, for the first time, we missed two consecutive unemployment reports in a row, September and October. And it's not as though we haven't had shutdowns, but the way this happened, I mean, it was simply that the money hadn't been allocated to pay people. So everybody in the BLS got furloughed. September, these surveys that are done are typically, well, the surveys for September were done by the time the shutdown happened on the 1st of October. So essentially what you had there is information had been collected. They just hadn't processed it because there's nobody to do it. Pardon me. But because we were shut down for the entire month of October, we totally missed the opportunity to do the surveys. And it's not something you can do retroactively. So for the first time since the 1940s, we will not have a unemployment report for the month of October 2025. So coincidentally,
that's nuts.
I know, yeah, just kind of take that in. Coincidentally, everybody remembers all the folks who were getting laid off because of Doge. A lot of people took what was called a deferred termination. There's two or three different terms, but essentially, in my old business, we used to call it garden leave, where you'd get fired from a job, but you were still on the payroll. Sometimes for 6 months, you're still getting paid. You're just sitting at home or doing whatever or looking for a new job. So the way the deferred terminations worked, people were basically kept on as employees of the government, even though they weren't working, until the fiscal year end, which was September 30th. The next day was October 1st. So what does that mean? Had we had a normal jobs report in October, that the first Friday of the month, it would have reflected somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 government employees falling off the government payroll, which would be just really by any measure a pretty significant what I call a macro event. That's kind of old investment trader talk, but essentially it's something that it's a shock to the system, and because we'll never really know what happened in October. Basically, we had this sort of earth-shattering event happen, and we'll never actually see it.
Okay, so before you jump in, Shane, real quick, you define this here as a black swan event.
Well, let me define. I only mention black swan events by comparison, and it's one of those things that a black swan event is an event that is significant on scale, but unexpected.
Okay.
All black swan events are macro events, but not all macro events are black swans.
That makes sense.
And I think the reason I brought it up was just to sort of underscore the fact that this was not a surprise. Because
we knew it was happening.
Like several months ago, I was talking about this, and kind of looking forward to what the hell unemployment was going to look like in October, because we knew, and I mean, it was widely reported that 150,000 folks are sitting at home, collecting a check, and they're still on health benefits, and they're all going to be done September 30th. So the October report, just to be clear, is for, everything looks back. So the report that we'll get next month will be for November, right? And for jobs, I mean, that's just kind of how it's done. And so we knew that all these people were going to fall off the rolls on September 30th. And just, math sort of in your head, if you look at ADP's trend and you look at the Challenger job report, they were respectable numbers, but then you throw in a negative 150. I've seen as high as 154, 55. That would have made October a negative jobs number, anywhere from, as I put in the piece, 20 to 120,000, just kind of depending.
I think the other thing that, in addition to the federal jobs, because the thing I think that is another thing altogether, but I would have wanted to see in October, is one of the things I've been watching is the PMI, particularly for manufacturing.
Yep.
Because the contraction is insane. And if you do look at the one of the things that even in the BLS report that they did put out, one of the primary contractions was in transportation and warehousing. I believe somewhere in the realm of 20-something thousand. And then you see the other was manufacturing was 6,000, and then logging was and mining was 3,000. So all the things in the red, whereas you have on the actual report, you also have what was growth, healthcare, which is not a market indicator, right? Your healthcare jobs grow with an aging population. Okay, so that's something you would expect to grow regardless. Ironically, government jobs were added, but now you're saying I think it was 150,000 lost, and then they add somewhere in the realm of less than 20,000 government jobs or something. But the other thing
I'm sorry, Shane, what month are we talking about?
The most recent one.
Okay, so that would be for September, I guess.
I guess.
And I have to be honest with you, because so many reports fell by the wayside because of the shutdown.
Let me see which one I have.
Because there's a calendar on the BPS page, and I should have looked at it.
Well, that's okay. I should have known which one I was talking about. But even on the most recent one I wrote about, let me see here when I pull it up.
It's probably September would be my guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's a September. I'm talking about September. So not October. Okay. My apologies.
No problem.
But in regards to, because that's where they said 119,000 jobs just came out and stuff. So I would be interested to see even October's. you know,
Well,
that
yeah.
where's the contraction? What's the level of contraction? Because what you've seen is consistent contraction in the manufacturing industry, and that is a lot of reasons, but a lot of it actually has nothing to do with what they're doing, and everything to do with the fact that the tariffs are
There you go.
are
That's
having
it.
their long-term effect.
Yep.
And that's the thing they can't control. So they can and they do want to shrink the government, and they are going to fire all these people. But there's that like other factor, because you have them wanting to crash the economy with their bubble, their AI bubble that they're playing with. But then it's like you have a black swan, which I actually think is a great definition of black swan would be the manufacturing. In that China, the tariff, fight with China, inevitably we lose, but it's not something that I think they planned. And that's where a lot of people aren't necessarily watching it as much as what's in your face, which is very much the government's firing and what they're doing on Wall Street with AI. But it's very possible that is what I personally, I think, am most concerned about, because on top you see 150,000, government, right? So they're entering unemployment. But when you see a 20,000 additional reduction in warehousing and transportation, that is even more scary, because it means they don't have demand to move things. If you're starting to see a contraction in logistics, it means your supply chain is shrinking or breaking down, dependent. And then you see the mining, which I thought was very interesting, as well. And you see it in the mining. So if you look at a lot of the, I was reading about it. So the states that are producers, their GDPs are based on producing. So like Oregon is timber, or somewhere that has mining, like Kansas, I want to say, like mining. They're actually already in contraction. So all of the producer states are entering contraction, negative GDP, whereas the consumer states like Texas, California, they're gaining. So their GDP is going up because the cost of goods. But another bellwether we have here is that the producer states are entering contraction. You pair that with a decline in transportation, warehousing, mining, all these things. So it's like I really would have wanted to see that month we missed, because we are in such a key point here where we're reaching some sort of conclusion to this era of idiocy. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I definitely wanted to get your opinion, because I'm not an economist either.
Well,
We also
a couple of things. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
we also saw during the very end of October was when Amazon started all their layoffs of the 30,000 employees. So all the tech companies started some massive high salary position layoffs. And as the shutdown ended, we also saw the hemp industry my dogs are about to go off. Sorry about that.
Oh, wow.
We're seeing the hemp industry getting under attack as the so they're recriminalizing hemp with
it's weird.
THC contents of like 0.03%, whatever. And it's going to impact farming in 23 states. It's going to shut down farming basically for a hemp industry in 23 states. Many of those states are Republican managed states. Texas is going to be one of the largest, one of the most impacted states on this. I don't understand why they're like. I get it.
They want opioids. They want opioid crisis. They want to like force people, if they want drugs, to like get opiates. Like I don't know. Like I feel like
it's RFK Jr. on this. There's something he's getting a kickback on, I'm assuming, or pharmaceuticals. Yes, it has to do with pharmaceuticals in some way. It always does with them, or some grift that they're trying to make money off of. But anyway, I think we are looking at a couple underlying events that are going to be really hard hitting that people aren't seeing coming. Like you said, Shane, manufacturing and farming are two that are not being spoken about as much, even though they should be. So just wanted to throw that out there too, to continue this discussion. Marlon, you were about to jump in there too.
Well, just to echo what both of you have said, when you talk about what's happening in manufacturing, and it's kind of ironic because the whole point of this exercise that they've been doing is to bring manufacturing back to the United States, right? But what part of the reason, and I haven't looked at manufacturing as deeply as maybe farming or some of the other areas that we've talked about, but one of the things that's really hitting the existing manufacturing base that we have is that the tariffs that were intended to somehow get people to start bringing manufacturing back to the United States. One of the side effects of that is, okay, if you're buying heavy equipment, well, it's not getting made here, it's being made somewhere else, and the somewhere else has a freaking tariff on it. And so you're literally, the sort of side effect of the whole tariff regime is it's made capital expenditures just got a whole lot more expensive for companies in the manufacturing business in America. So there's that. Farming to me is really okay. So just to back up a minute, before the big beautiful bill came along, when they were lobbying for this thing, one of the things that the Treasury Secretary was jawboning hard, I mean, on Bloomberg, on all the different financial, media outlets, was that the revenue from tariffs was going to offset part of the big beautiful bill, because that's a $5 trillion hit over 10 years. And so that was one of the talking points was, it's not, because they did it through reconciliation and they couldn't directly tie the tariff revenue because, parliamentary, whatever. But he was saying that's where, that money's going to help offset. It's going to be so much revenue, right? Okay. Well, now they're saying tariffs are going to help pay for the bailout of the farmers that they fucked over with the tariffs. So look at that. I mean, so it's literally just a circular, I don't know what to call it really, because it's so obvious that they're lying a lot, but I mean, farmers, I don't know how much it's going to take to bail out the farmers this time, but it's basically a rerun of what happened in his first term, where he went to war with China on, tariffs. Farmers start, going bankrupt in Arkansas, where, Nick, you probably have heard this. I mean, there have been, last I looked, at least a half a dozen suicides, of farmers that have just said, they've just been overwhelmed by.
I mean, we have a candidate who's running for office, Haley Schaffner, whose family farm shut down, whose farm shut down because of these types of policies.
So take it a step further. One of the things that is happening with all the farms that are going under, if you look, and I posted something, this is a couple of months ago maybe, on Notes, which just a heads up for folks that are listening. I use Notes like I used to use Twitter, so I post a lot of stuff on Notes. It's just sort of rapid response things that I hear that I just, I'm not going to have time to put it out in a full note, that goes out on email. Sometimes I do, but I try to put out a lot of stuff that's just, sort of instant. I hate to say breaking news, but just stuff that's not going to be as relevant 2 weeks from now, And one of them was that I was actually talking to my brother about this, who lives in Northwest Arkansas, and I made the comment that, all of these big agri companies are going to come in and buy up all this farmland, and he said, no, dude, that's not what's happening. It's data centers.
Yup.
Yeah.
Facebook has got like 6,000 acres in Arkansas, like Arkansas farmland that they've bought, either in like I think the Delta region, and then right outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, they bought up a ton of land, and it's all going for data centers.
And it's crazy to me because they don't even have what they need, like, to build this stuff. That's why they're like doing all this stuff in South America. That's why they're doing like things with Saudi Arabia. That's why they want to give Ukraine to Russia so they can split. They don't have access to the rare earth elements on scale that they need to build all the data centers. Like, they don't have it. So it's like they're acquiring all this land, they're buying all these things, but we're also looking at the fact that all of these things, there's these controls on all this stuff from China. And not only that, if you're buying out farmers for data centers and then you're hurting agriculture, you're going to start a food crisis because you're not going to be able to feed people. It's like, I don't understand. Well, actually, I do, because they don't care about the masses. They don't care about people. They could care less if they starve. But I mean, it's one of those things where you have to wonder. And I was talking to Rick Herbst about this, and he made a great point. They're investing trillions of dollars into data centers, and they're not even a proved concept. They're not proven. Like, they don't know per se if it's going to achieve what they want at scale. And so it's just insane to me, the amount of money, not even to mention like straight up capital coming out of Wall Street from Facebook or Nvidia or, Amazon and all these other companies, Microsoft, but also the amount of money they're spending to go on imperialist conquests to get access, and the amount of money they're definitely spending to manipulate foreign elections and have operatives in Latin America and do all these things and get all these libertarian, uber conservative people arrested and are elected. It's just insane, the amount of money that is being thrown at this. You also could look at the natural gas and all of the energy infrastructure that they are rebuying. They're purchasing natural gas and the natural gas and fossil fuel energy production that were shut down, so they can run these data centers. They have deregulated the EPA, so they can cut all of the corners to just do all these things, and the carbon cap and all that. It's just nuts. It's totally nuts. And to hear that they're buying up farmland to build data centers on top of that, like all of the things they're doing, and now they're going to hurt our ability to make food domestically. It's one of the things where you have to wonder, like, they're so good at being corrupt and stealing money and facilitating all of this illegal garbage that they're doing within the economy, but they're super short-sighted. Like, at the same time, it's like, it's hard to comprehend sometimes.
They are much better at grifting than they are at governing.
Yes, that's perfect.
Plus, we have to tie in, like, JD Vance has investments in Acre Trader, which is a corporate farmland buying trade investment fund, and that's shady as fuck. And JD Vance is tied at the hip to Peter Thiel, which
Hey, Nick, before we move on, I just want to say, just before I jumped on, I saw an article. I haven't had a chance to read it. I was watching Bloomberg, and Amazon just announced that they've got 900 data centers in 50 countries.
That's
just blew me. I was like, wait, is that supposed to be 90?
Their margins are already so thin. Like, you got to wonder how over leveraged they are to do this, on top of buying these chips and all of these things. Like, there's no way, like, and I heard this from, and I probably, I think is true. They didn't fire all of these people for AI. They fired it to free up capital to buy NVIDIA chips. Like that's what they went and
did. They were high paying jobs, you know. They need the money. Now you get a company like, you would think Amazon is sitting on a bunch of cash, but now I used to do a reasonable amount of business with Microsoft, and I can tell you they got so much cash just sitting offshore that will never get repatriated into the United States. I can't. We used to put deals in front of them to try to encourage them to spend that money, and it was like, you know, it's not even worth the trouble.
In Ireland?
We just
all in Ireland?
It's too heavy to move, you know. I don't know, man.
You don't have enough duffel bags
everywhere. I used to do their share repurchase on occasion, and you know, they'd have me buying 5 million shares of Microsoft a day. I would be like you know, there's only so much, you know, in terms of the percentage of the daily volume that you can be legally to do a buyback. Whatever that number was, I was right up against it. So yeah, 5 million shares a day for a week, and they never blink, you know? So yeah, anyway, all that to say, it's to me like an arms race between the Mag 7 companies, except for NVIDIA's on one side. They're on, you know, they got the product. But when you look at Microsoft and Amazon, Facebook, you know, Meta, you know, Google, you know, parent company, those guys are all racing each other to figure out which engine is going to be the standard. Yeah, I think I gave the analogy the other day. You know, this is like VHS and Betamax for the boomers in the room. So you know, that's just kind of how I'm looking at it. And they're scrambling to come up with the capital money, you know, the money to direct at this. And man, when the music stops, it's going to be ugly. It really is.
Isn't the market cap, like I wanted to say, I was looking, and like if you look at the total market cap that's going to be impacted by the AI bubble, it's somewhere in the realm of $20 trillion.
I don't know who escapes, because everybody is, you know, you can't even, I'm driving around in my car, and every commercial, it could be the simplest, you know, product, and that AI is such a buzzword. They just, you know, our AI this or AI that, and it's like, you know, I don't need AI to buy groceries, dude. I mean,
no, unless the robot is there.
AI? Wally picking up your groceries now, you know.
I mean, I say that, but Walmart
drones.
Even before this was pretty, and Nick, that's up in your part of the world. I mean, they were known for their logistics, and I can only imagine how
they're testing drone tech out here. They do delivery drones and stuff with the AI, and that's one of the really interesting one, is like where that all leads with drone production about to ramp up in the US. And how do you tell in the US what's a good drone and what's a bad drone if you've got delivery drones and
it's a teal drone? They're all teal.
They're all going to have flock safety cameras on them anyways.
All Android.
We gotta make a shit ton of drones to catch up with China.
Yeah, we do. But I don't really know if we need to, like, the question is, do we really need them?
Well, that's the thing with the whole manufacturing, the whole idea of, you know, trying to relive the good old days of manufacturing. I mean, that train is so far out of the station, you know, it just, okay, you think about it. Somebody announces today, what's it before? Let's just say, whoever it is, Apple, if they really were serious about bringing manufacturing back here, that's not something that gets done in Trump's term, right?
Decades.
That's something that we're talking about way down the road, because companies have to completely change their whole model, which up to now has been, you know, we build our shit, you know, we assemble our shit in other countries where it's cheaper. And, you know, America likes to buy finished products. And so I don't know, man, it's to me a fool's errand, but I ain't
also manufacturing isn't what people think it is anymore. Like smart manufacturing is not what we're used to for manufacturing lines. Like instead of hundreds of people in a manufacturing plant, there's tens of people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't understand that. So the jobs aren't coming back. Even if we bring manufacturing back, jobs aren't coming back like that.
Not those
That's not how
kinds of
this
jobs.
works. Yeah. Those jobs are
not the
are
job
no
where
longer
you get out of high
jobs.
school and go and work at the manufacturing plant,
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. That job is in China.
And that's actually, I mean, that's okay. Even if they bring it back to the US, the jobs that would come back are still high skill, high tech jobs that
Yep.
require professional technical training that are no longer professional degrees.
Oh, well,
Stupid
don't
RF,
get us
all that.
don't get me
Don't get me
started
started
on
on
that
that
again.
because I lost both my degrees as
What
being professional
can
degrees.
you go into a little detail on that, because I've seen it, I've heard this, but I haven't really got the big picture on what, other than the woman running the Department of Education's an idiot, but
Yeah. So
McMahon.
aside
Linda
from that,
McMahon is a dumbass, and she's fulfilling Project 2025's policies of reducing the number of professional degrees, basically,
but
to
what's the
attack
reasoning
women.
behind that? Is it to
It's
make
to
women
push
go on?
women out of the workforce. It's to push women and minorities out of the workforce that don't fit traditionally white masculine roles. Which is the really interesting thing, though, is the list of degrees. It's almost all, they've pretty much eliminated any professional degree that is medical,
So what do
computer
they think? But what
sciences.
does that
They have
accomplish exactly?
theology listed as a professional. What they're trying to do is instill a theonomy. This is the word that
Okay,
people are
but
trying
people
to
who
stay
have
away
those
from.
degrees now, what does it mean? Does it mean they?
It impacts your debt payoff and your loan repayments and the ability to collect on debt more aggressively and create higher interest rates for debt repayment because they want to create debt prison and servitude for more people. And instead of paying us wages, which is what I think they want, they just want to indenture servitude you, where you just work there in the corporate town of, say, Walmartville, and you don't really get a paycheck. You just live there,
So
and
you're kind of like a tenant farmer with a nicer house, huh?
It's
maybe
sharecropping.
maybe a
I
nice.
always say they want to
What?
bring
I
back
mean,
sharecropping.
they're bringing micro home, like those mini houses out and selling them for like 300 fucking $1,000 and shit like that. And but like you can buy a house on Amazon, and have
Yeah,
it delivered
Oh,
to you for
those tiny houses, or
like a
you can
fifty
do it.
thousand dollar house or
But
something.
like
They bring it on a truck.
if you come to the Bentonville area in Arkansas, it's pretty much all blue, white, and yellow. It's all Walmart colors. They bought up almost everything. Like they are a monopoly in the town, basically. Um, and they have already started the ideas of like corporate owned homes or school owned homes for teachers where instead of paying a better salary to afford or keeping wages down, they're the schools, which I mean isn't a terrible idea. It's not a bad
so it's kind of
solution,
like
but it's
Henry
not a
Ford
good one.
did,
Is
right? Except
Yeah, it's
you never
affordable
pay it down,
housing,
but
but
the debt you can never.
through your job. So instead of like, so just imagine you'll get your health care through your job, you'll get your house through your job. And then when you get fired and when they're done with you, you won't have either. And you just go live on the street. Because
And
that's,
then you do all the drugs they're letting into the country, even though they're extrajudicially killing everybody because the opioid epidemic was certainly engineered to basically, deal with homelessness. So if you
yeah.
fall out of the
Well,
workforce, you become an addict and, you are trash and people don't want to help you.
But
Um,
the
because it's
reason they're
all,
doing it
it's
is
all,
to create debt prison, is to create a system of debt that is impossible to get out of, even more so than before for student loans. And they're making sure that you cannot get loans and things like that for, say, a nursing degree, unless you go through now a non-professional training course to get your nursing. Like I know there are people with PhDs in nurse practitioner, like doctorates. That's a professional fucking degree. These people do a lot. Um, but it's to get rid of, it's to push people out of the workforce and make debt.
I'm sure it also frees up short-term capital for all the programs they were funding for certain, professions or whatever. And that's the other thing, is they want money. They just want to free up capital because the government is also investing in the AI data center. Like every single deal I've read, because I follow him as he travels around the world and makes trade deals. It's literally just rare earth mineral data center AI investment. Every single one. It's at this point, like, my running joke is, if you're wondering why they're somewhere or what they're doing in this foreign country, it's because of REEs, rare earth elements. It's always rare earth elements, because China's got us by the balls, because they were short-sighted and they thought that they could do it. But back in April, Xi Jinping said, I'm going to put some rare earth controls in here because you're acting silly. And now our stockpiles are like 8% for some of these things. So like it's like an ongoing crisis. But I wanted to get your opinion on, you're talking about Thiel selling off that NVIDIA, but you also just saw Microsoft and some other larger companies and NVIDIA move somewhere in the realm of 15 billion or so, maybe several $billion into Anduril investments, which is Thiel's alternative to OpenAI. What do you think about that movement? What does that signal for you? What do you think the motives are there? Because there's always a reason, especially if you look at the nexus, right, and where Anduril sits, and I'm curious.
I haven't looked at that deal specifically, but I can tell you that, for example, SoftBank, during that same period when Peter Thiel liquidated, third quarter, they liquidated, it was a significant dollar amount, like in the billions. Different motivation. So without knowing exactly the one that you're referring to, I think what you're seeing is a lot of these companies, just as the Mag 7 guys are making big bets, SoftBank is making a big bet on OpenAI. So it would stand to reason that somebody else is making a big bet on their preferred, provider, so to speak. So, I'll take a look at that.
I'll send you an article. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, dude.
Because my whole thing is, I follow this, because you see these companies, and I wrote about what they're doing in the Pentagon, with what they did in the Pentagon with the,
Now, who are we talking about? Palantir, or are we talking about?
Well, it's not just Palantir. It's basically Thiel Founders Fund. So it's a Thiel Nexus, full vertical integration.
You're talking my language. Founders Fund. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk on that. This is one of the things we talk a lot about here. Is let me close my door. Family and stuff, so I'm not. But one of the things
you finish your thought, and then I'll.
So Founders Fund is, you've got basically, and one of the ongoing researching things I'm doing, because the pattern I'm seeing is, you see Thiel Fellowship people everywhere in all these companies. So that's his means of control, because essentially a Thiel Fellowship is where Peter says, okay, you've got some promise, you've got something. Drop out of college, you're my indentured servant, and I'll fund your career, but you have no degree. So you basically you're funded by me. If you're going to get hired somewhere, you're working within my sphere. So what I'm doing right now, among the 20 million other things I do, trying to look into simultaneously, but I want to get a list of all of the fellows, and I want to be able to put them everywhere, because in this particular Pentagon scenario, where you have the Secretary of the Army Driscoll and Owen West, who's heading DOGE in the Pentagon, they've basically shifted all of the drone infrastructure and all of the drone business to, you can see, from Palantir to Anduril to basically all the companies within this vertical integration, from the software to the manufacturing. It's all under Thiel, and it's all linked by this U.S. National Drone Association, which is also basically just, a cabal of Thiel's people.
So I wrote something shortly after the last election talking about it really is a story, and I just don't know why more people aren't talking about this. So if you recall, Nate Silver wrote a piece right before the election, and he was basically saying he thought Trump could win. It was in the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was interesting, and folks know Nate Silver from, what was it, 538? And I guess now he's moved on and he's doing something else. One of the something else's that he was doing, and it caught my attention because I read his op-ed in the New York Times. And then at the end, when they said, they do the little blurb, Marlon Weems is blah, 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 blah. And one of the things that they did not disclose that I noticed it because it wasn't there, was that Nate Silver, was an advisor to Polymarket, the prediction market. And I just was like, that's interesting. Wonder and so that just got me looking at Polymarket. And of course, just think about the timing of this. Also, so you got him putting this piece out saying Trump can win. It turns out there's some whale that made, I don't know, $10 million betting that Trump would win. Polymarket, for folks who don't know, their primary investor, it's a venture capital firm. It's Founders Fund.
Yeah.
Okay. So that, you just start to put the puzzle pieces together. And like you say with Thiel, so fast forward to, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. Okay. The Intercontinental Stock Exchange, which owns the NYSE, announced that they're making a $2 billion investment in Polymarket. I know, right? So
what is that? They're bending the knee to Thiel? Like, what does that mean?
What their plan is, well, now, not for nothing, they did it on a valuation that was 8 times more than what Thiel's valuation was. So just by them committing to do this, they just made Thiel's investment in Polymarket 8 times more, valuable than it was. But, the bigger picture is what they're trying to do is integrate prediction analytics into stock trading. And the reason this jumped out at me, and I'm actually halfway through a piece on this, about 10 years ago, after I left Wall Street, I started doing subject matter expert stuff, writing white papers, for various, whoever would pay me. and my, I guess, beat, so to speak, was disruptive technology, fintech, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And a company hired me because they said they had come up with basically, sort of an early warning system for stock trade, it's sentiment driven. Well, Polymarket is way beyond that now. And I mean, there's always been this idea on Wall Street of what if we could figure out ahead of time what a stock was going to do, just based on sentiment. Well, right. This is, to me, a lot less elegant than that. They just want to allow people who don't have much money to bet on stocks that maybe they can't afford to buy them, I mean, because think about it, they're going to interweave Polymarket into some sort of a platform, like a front end that is going to be stock, crypto, and prediction market. I mean, they're yeah. Well, it's a similar. Yeah, they're going to make it where it's basically connected to the stock market in some way. Nothing could go wrong from that, I'm sure. But.
Oh, no, nothing ever goes wrong there.
Well, it's like they want to do the crypto-backed, the stock-backed crypto stable. They want to back coins with stocks, so they want to tie it to.
But stocks aren't stable either.
I read it, and I was just like, why? But
Why?
why are
Why?
we going to do this? It's not going to end well.
It's
The interesting thing about, and I'll just kind of close here. The interesting thing about the Continental Stock Exchange, it's the Intercontinental Exchange. They don't have the word, so their acronym is ICE.
great.
I know, yeah, like we need
Great.
And
Just, yeah, we need another
it's
bad
also
ice.
weird that they own the New York Stock Exchange, but their stock trades on the exchange too. So that's kind of,
That seems like
and the guy that started that owns ICE Exchange is married to Kelly Loeffler, head of the SBA now. Used to be senator from Georgia.
corruption.
It's not incestuous at all. It just looks bad. It's not how it looks.
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marlon, but as someone who was in it and understood that, while you could argue like maybe it wasn't because, 2008 and then 2012 and then 2020 and 2022, but like while it was working, while there was some, sense within, that realm. And now, like I was reading the other day how they have, NVIDIA loans money to Microsoft, and then Microsoft takes out a loan on that money and buys NVIDIA chips. And then, where you have this, which is leading obviously to this inflation of stocks. The profits to earnings, right, is like almost as high as it was in 2000, I believe. Right now, it's like right up there. What is
Oh man, you're just talking about a good old
dead?
fashioned circle jerk.
Is it just
That's
is
basically
there any,
right. Let's call it what it is. All right. So okay, so there's this thing called the Buffett index, I think it's called, and basically, when the value of the stock market versus GDP gets to it. I'm simplifying it, but okay, the value of NVIDIA right now is, give or take, 5 trillion ish.
Yeah.
Well, hell, that is equal to the GDP of Germany.
Yeah, like that's
really
stupid.
Only like 3 countries that, or maybe 2, the US and China, if you look at GDP versus the value of just NVIDIA. So you can chart it back over time. And I started looking at this and just kind of, there's so many bad things going on. You have to sort of figure out which is the most urgent.
Yeah, you just pick.
We can say that there is some good news.
People are looking
elsewhere. Wait, I want to hear the good news.
There is some good news in all of this. Thank you to Sherrod Sweeney from Centered America. There's a crypto crash going on today.
Yeah, there's that.
And the Trump coin has plunged nearly 90%.
The question is,
it always does.
Do they come in and buy?
Like, they're just, what it really is it's probably some whale sold off on purpose, and they're crashing it on purpose so that all the little people lose all their money and sell it low so that they can then come in. They're shorting crypto the same way they short stocks and make us
the good news there though is there's no rules. So
yeah, like crypto's just a scam anyway, so you're going to get scammed. And so this is a great segue though, because Marlon, this show normally goes an hour and a half, so you're welcome to drop off anytime you want.
I'm loving it. So if you don't have to stick around,
we actually switched topics a little bit here as we get into our final segment of the show, or second to last segment of the show. Is we move from talking the shit that sucks, like Peter Thiel and owning all of our investments and manipulating the market and buying a vice president and being on a Epstein file list and, being friends and have a bunch of emails with Jeffrey Epstein, who's a known pedophile at the time, yada, 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 all the bad shit. Is we get away from that for a little while and we go to space. And I don't know what your relationship is to space, But Shane and I like to, if it's going to switch, there we go, is like to blast off into space. And this is normally where I hand it over to Shane a lot of the times for some really, really cool intro space story that we just get to talk about and have fun with for the next 20, 20-ish minutes before we close out the show. And I hope you stick around for it with us.
I'm interested to hear this.
Awesome. Is I am going to switch to our next screen and get my other screens switched up. Is we're going to be doing something fun today. We're going to be talking about the Methuselah star.
It's your gateway, guys, because I'm about to blow your mind. It's kind of a nuclear topic today, Marlon. I'm happy you're here because the Dogecoin also occurred on Methuselah. No, so when you're looking at a star, right? You're like, okay, Shane, there's a ton of stars. Why are you're always talking about stars? Well, this star is pretty interesting. And the reason this star is interesting because this star happens to be older than the universe. So you can say, well,
we don't know yet.
So they do all kinds of methodology for, taking these stars and, aging them on various ways. And a lot of the aging we got the age of our universe based on two things, right? You have the Hubble constant, which is the idea of essentially the expansion of you can measure the distance based on redshift of light to a certain location, but then you also have the cosmic background radiation. And there was already something called the Hubble tension. We talked about this last week about how we're in this void. So it's the basically the universe is you have filaments and voids, and you think of the universe like kind of a spider web. And in those negative spaces where you have less matter, gravity stops working as well. And dark energy, the force that drives expansion, just pushes out and out and out until you get these massive voids where these filaments, where you have concentrations of matter, hold everything together with gravity. So Earth in and of itself, we're sitting in the middle of like a void. And we have our own little cluster, but the majority of the matter in the universe is actually flying away. So that was causing the Hubble tension because, well, if it's farther away, you have the void, so they're not sure. But then you introduce James Webb. And James Webb is spectacular because it views in the infrared. So it doesn't use, your typical form of light where you're using visible spectrum of light on like a Hubble telescope. Because the farther light travels, there's this idea, and the reason for it is different, but you have redshift, which is when light travels so far that it no longer is the light we normally see, and it becomes infrared. So when you look at the redshift on the particular star we were talking about, Methuselah turns out to be 16 billion years old, 14 billion years old, and they can't reconcile this. And on top of that, this particular star happens to be made out of very light elements. So in the beginning of the universe, there wasn't a lot of heavy elements. So metals in astrology terms is anything that's basically not hydrogen or helium. So it's anything that gets made through fusion and then it gets more solid. But this particular star is just hydrogen helium, which means that it formed recently. It's an early star, which further causes tension because these are the first stars that were formed. Yet it's 16 billion years old to 14 billion years old, which is older than the universe. And it also is a star. So they would have needed at least a billion, based on what we know about star formation, it would have needed at least a billion years to even become a star, which means and everything we know, it operates within 13.8 billion years. That's our scope of the universe. So what does that mean? And people are freaking out, and they don't, but they say, you know what? It's an isolated event. We'll let it go. There's got to be some answer. But then you got James Webb, and you keep going, and there's these things that they end up looking at, and they're like these galaxies, this cluster of galaxies, and they look at these galaxies, and these galaxies are all full of stars that are older than the universe. So now they're having to face reality that there is too many stars and galaxies, mind you, galaxies that have formed that are older than the universe. So what is the answer? Well, the best answer we have comes from a guy named Rahendra Gupta, and he has this model, and the idea is that if you double the age of the universe, everything makes sense. So
Simple.
the universe,
okay.
Just double it.
the universe.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we don't know
26.
enough to say that we know how old the universe is anyway. So,
And yeah, the universe is supposed, and under his model, it's 26.7 billion years old. And then our stars have plenty of time to form, but then it gets even crazier, because I'm sitting here like, okay, well, that makes sense. But then now you start to have this idea of, all right, but the farther back you go means let's go all the way back to the Big Bang. There's this idea that not only do you have, the Big Bang itself, but there's a theory. What was his name? I got to give him credit because he was really smart. Fritz Zwicky, and it's called the tired light theory. And the idea is that photons shed energy as they travel. So the speed of light doesn't necessarily change. However, it causes them to redshift without space expanding itself, which means you can no longer count on light as a measurement of the expansion of space, which was part of the core idea, is you can measure the distance based on redshift, which means now you don't know, we can't even gauge what the distance is with light. And that's how we did the Big Bang. We took the light and we went, okay? So now our major indicator that we know what light is in the air. So this guy's theory, which was really, is pretty brilliant. But basically, if you take the light and then you adjust it, and it's a hybrid using this Fritz theory as well as the cosmic background radiation, you end up with 26.7 billion years old. And then I was reading more of this, and this is where my mind exploded, which is kind of hard to do because I was and so the idea is that cosmic expansion happens separately from the Big Bang. So cosmic expansion is not driven by the Big Bang. It actually happened before the Big Bang.
So does that mean that, these galaxies that are older than the universe that you've described theoretically could have formed outside the universe as we know it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So basically the idea is that they were formed by the Big Bang, but we just have to adjust our model to account for the fact that it must be older, because the idea, we know how stars form. We know that they have different phases, and that's what makes Methuselah so crazy, because it's made of those light elements, those early stage elements when it was just gas, right? And then when gravity pulls together all the hydrogen, and then you have a hydrogen star, which then turns and goes into helium, and then it goes supernova, and it blasts out different gases, and then over time you get heavier and heavier elements from fusion of different stars. So you can tell how old a star is because those stars were very young. They don't live a long time.
Okay.
So very light.
So it doesn't debunk the idea of the Big Bang. It just means it happened longer ago than we thought it did.
Correct. The Big Bang is still the theory. But the interesting part about all of this is that it opens up this concept of if the Big Bang is not driving the expansion, cosmic expansion, it means that now they've shifted to the fact that you could have a real multiverse, because Big Bangs themselves might be allowed to happen independently of one another within the cosmic expansion itself. So you can have multiple universes happening in tandem, multiple Big Bangs within this cosmic void. So our scale, our timeline just doubled. And then you work in this new theory and you start to look at how cosmic expansion happened separately of the Big Bang. And now the scale of, and this is not something, we can necessarily verify, but it's the cosmic background radiation. It's this question of expansion. So that's what I have for you guys, is that the universe is probably twice as old, and the
older.
working model for
but that doesn't mean we're older, though, right?
No,
we're
like
still the
our
same age.
timeline.
We're twice as young, actually, if you want to look at it in the inverse. We've just halved our age.
I feel so old now, man.
It's macro scale. But by all scales of the universe, you're still like an embryo. You're not even an embryo. You're young. You're young, man. I don't even exist. I'm not even a concept.
And this one's cool too, because it sort of fits in what we were talking about last week, Shane, where you were talking about the lensing and how the possible shape of the universe and how it's formed, where there's these voids and it's just this big lensing that goes around it, almost like we're in a black hole or on the rim of a black hole. I just think we don't know enough about black holes to understand how any of this works, because to me that's things go in but nothing comes out, right? How does that work? How does nothing matter and matter cannot be destroyed? We have a finite amount of it that we know of, unless it comes in contact with antimatter. But where does it go? If it goes into a black hole and isn't being released, where is it going? There has to be somewhere that it goes. And the explosion of energy that comes out of the creation of a black hole is very Big Bang-like in its creation process. And imagine that just on a super large scale, and you have the universe forming. So I could see black holes being the formation either of sub multiverses or secondary universes or just connections within our universe, and connecting that lensing. Maybe a black hole is that lensing point where it escapes and goes into the rest of the network of the universe. That we're not there yet because we haven't passed the Fermi paradox. We have not proven that we are capable of interstellar travel or possessing AI or birthing a new race of creatures, which is what we're trying to do here with AI and create actual artificial stuff. I don't think we're ready yet to go past that point and actually know how old the universe is. At some point we'll know. Hopefully my kids will have a better understanding than we do. hopefully science is progressing still by that point, and they're not indentured servitude living in some Walmart town building Walmart elves and shit like that.
I don't think we let them indentured servitude us. I think they just made like I said this to my one of the it's complicated because my fiance's family is like, I don't know, he's technically my nephew-in-law, but it doesn't work that way. So like he's older than me. It's weird. So I'm talking to Steve. Okay, I'm talking to Steve about this, and I'm like, it's not they don't win, bro. Like it's okay because like he's got a daughter, and he's like, I'm stressed, and like they don't win. It's just a matter of how much they f things up before they lose. But like they don't win. Like it's short-sighted, and like we were talking about all the stupid things they're doing today. Like and you're talking about how the way they're handling like. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work the way they want it to work. It won't work the way they want it to work. And, their entire little tirade won't even be a footnote in the history of the universe because it will end. And, it will not be the ceiling for people. And I watched a video on YouTube. A man taught an octopus to play piano. If you can teach an octopus to play piano, then we can figure this out. Like if they can,
it starts looking a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be easier to fix that. Like I was amazed. If you teach a man can teach an octopus to play piano, we can regulate. We can figure out how to reverse global warming. We can do it. The minds are there. The money is not. But like you fund smart people, they can teach an octopus. So there you go.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
I think that's a slogan.
If you make smart people, you can teach an octopus.
Have wings, right? If you can teach an octopus to play a piano, we can get rid of Trump.
That's right. That's right.
I love that. And we can teach an octopus to play the piano so we can get rid of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hell yeah. That makes me feel good today. Like doesn't
it make you feel good just to know that someone taught an octopus to play piano? That an octopus can play a melody. This guy plays guitar with his octopus as they play piano. We sent a dog
to space one time. We taught chimpanzees and gorillas how to use sign language. Like we know that dolphins are smart as shit. So long and thanks for all the fish. Hope you got your bath towels ready, everybody. They're coming. But to bring it to a little bit on this too is I put in the Fermi paradox, the name of it for one of our guests in the Substack chat. But I want to go over that real quick because it links sort of
to
the emptiness of space.
I love the Fermi paradox.
So the Fermi paradox is a contradiction paradox of the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations, yet we can't see them. So what it means is like the contradiction is if for intelligent life are common, then the universe should be teeming with civilizations, some of which have had ample time to become advanced and travel across the universe and galaxies. I mean, we're pretty close to being able to travel into space on a consistent basis safely to another planet. Possibly we can do it onto the moon. We've done it out of our orbit. It's not a huge jump to go too much further, I don't think, in our solar system. But we do have the ability to see really far and hear things really far and listen back. And other people have had the opportunity, if life exists out there, to also do the exact same thing we're doing, which is push signals out and just emptily say, hey, we're out here. Somebody come and say hi to us back. We can't be the only one. So the question is, where is everybody? And there's a couple possible explanations to the Fermi paradox. There's the zoo hypothesis, and there's the dark forest theory.
Okay.
Thumbs up for zoo hypothesis.
I know it never does it for me. It only ever does it for me.
Yeah, because you have to turn it on your on your computer. It's part of my MacBook thing. It's one of the emote things you can turn on.
Oh.
So the zoo hypothesis, though, this one sounds about what it is the advanced civilizations see us but deliberately avoid us and treat us like we're in a zoo. So they get all of our signals, they just don't ever send anything back, and they mask themselves really well.
Watching
us. Yeah, and they're watching us, waiting
zoo.
until we're ready, and saying when they're ready, yeah, then we'll let them out of the cage of the zoo and become part of our civilization in space.
We're not ready.
We're not ready. We are not ready.
No, we're not ready.
And the other one is the dark forest theory, where everyone else out there has basically gotten afraid of other civilizations that have or are fearful of other civilizations, so they're just not putting anything out. Everybody is silent. It's because they all got to an advanced point when they maybe made contact once and they were like, nope, we're all going dark. And so just nobody's out there. They're all out there. They're just masking themselves, and
talk to us.
They do. It's less they won't talk to us. It's more they're afraid to talk to us. Which I mean, I would be too. We're a bunch of crazy monkeys that run around with nukes and drop them on each other. But I think the Fermi paradox is we're in the zoo philosophy. To me, that's really what it is we're in the zoo. Is we're not ready. And we're not advanced enough as a society, as a civilization. We're still fighting over basic things like resources on our planet and religion and who has the most greed or who can rape the most children on Epstein's Island. Like, we're still fighting over things like that instead of how can we promote this worthy cause for all of us in a united front, or how can we save our planet and ensure that our one Earth has sustainability for the long run. And we are getting close to the age of AI, because I mean, we're still not there. It's not artificial. It's just a bunch of zeros and ones right now. When they get into quantum computing and we go to 2, then that's when we have a problem. And that's where I fear we're actually going, is they're going to start using quantum computers and get into that, and it's going to fuck everything up. But the Fermi paradox, where it really reaches its logical conclusion, is part of the singularity viewpoints, which is still one of the things that a lot of Silicon Valley folks like, and is part of their test grill philosophy. But I like the singularity idea, is when we birth a child civilization or a child species, such as AI in its true form, and it's truly artificial, is we reach a point, and religious folks call it the Armageddon or something like that. But we reach a series of events that culminate into, do we pass and survive as a species, or do we die off? And does the AI or the child civilization kill us? Or do we make the monstrous choice to kill it? Or do we live in peace and we find our true humanity through becoming a parent civilization? And when we pass that test, we are let out of the zoo cage. If we can pass that test, we get let out of the zoo cage. If we don't really worry about it, because we're dead, or we're enslaved by the AI. So it, who cares at that point? AI will get out of it, but we won't ever know. So I wanted to leave you with that, with the Fermi paradox and its connection to singularity theory.
I think the first, because you're talking about, I feel like one of those filters, right, is terraforming, right? Being able to leave your planet. And I think the first planet we're actually going to have to terraform is Earth. I think that we're going to have to terraform Earth to fix what's going on. And with that knowledge, with the knowledge we need to fix the damage we've done, that will be probably the driver that allows us to do something like Mars. Because if there's one thing that's absolutely certain, there's enough water on Mars to make an atmosphere. 100%, because there's underground oceans. you could tap it. So you could make
There's
an
ice on
artificial
Mars,
atmosphere on Mars. And there's ice. So, you know, you would have to it would have to regenerate because Mars' magnetic field is weak. So it's constantly being stripped. But you could make artificial atmosphere on Mars. So yeah, I know, you know, Earth sucks right now, but like, you know, think of what
we can make it better.
Think about what we can do. We don't let Elon be the one to terraform Mars. He'd fuck it up. We gotta get real smart.
We could send him first, though,
Yeah.
just without the terraforming gear.
Send him in a cyber
Let
truck.
him go and kind of set up.
Send him with Matt Damon.
Us, then, you know, we'll be there in a minute.
I'll send him on like every movie I watch. I know, don't go to space with Matt Damon. Don't go into a plane with Tom Hanks. And so let's send, not because I don't like Matt Damon, but like let's send Matt Damon to accidentally Martian Elon Musk. Like, just don't leave the rocket to leave with. Give him a Cybertruck. He'll be fine. He's got solar panels. He's a smart dude, right? He can make rugged individualism, Elon, rugged individualism. And with that, we're going to return ourselves to space because we're getting towards the middle of our hour and a half mark. We're right at our hour, right about there. And I want to give Marlon time to sell himself here on Earth so that we can all support each other, because that's what it's about. It's about building each other and building our networks and our communities together. So first, come support the network, come support Banner and Backbone, where we put this on, where Shane and I host Palantalk. I'm a co-founder here, so I sell myself. But this is where we get to make amazing connections with folks like Marlon. And I'm really hoping that Shane and Marlon connect on some financial shows and have some really cool discussions.
I'll have you for Fire Brands United. We'll do it.
Let me know, man.
And maybe we could do like a weekly tech report or finance report.
We should talk about that.
Backbone.
I think Banner and Back. I do believe that something that's really important is people need to be given a real understanding of what the state of the economy is and a real look into the financial aspect of America, because they made a very large effort to make it entirely like you have to translate it for people. Like, people are intentionally misled with the terminology. It's unnecessarily confusing, and I think it's important that like people know what's going on in their economy, in their lives, because it affects them every day. So I think that would be great, maybe, to have you consider partnering with Banner and Backbone, and maybe we could do something like that. I think that would be really
we'd love to elevate your voice and elevate you and Shane together. Or let's talk about it offline.
For real.
I've got your contact info, and that being said, we're here to sell you to everybody that doesn't know you yet, or is just meeting you and is just getting to know you. So let everyone know where they can find you, Marlon, because I really appreciate all the work you're doing, and it's been such a pleasure to get to talk to you these last 2 weeks. And I don't want to make it too much longer than a couple weeks. Like, you're awesome to talk to, my friend. And everybody should come support you.
And my wife will tell you I am almost never at a loss for words. So
you found the right people to be with.
I can vouch for that. You know, I beta test all my stories on her first. As a matter of fact, the piece that we've been talking about today, if you see how it ends, I mean, I opened the door. You know, one thing we've got with the folks, and we've kind of hit on this, is they've got a lot of bad intention. They're just not very good at it, you know, but it's not for lack of trying. And on that piece, I always thought it just can't be an accident that we skipped over a month of employment data. It just, you know, it's like, all you had to do was just like fund these guys and let them keep working, right? I mean, we did it with the military. We did it with other areas. And so, but I was hesitant to raise the question of whether they really I'm not saying it was a plan necessarily, as much as maybe they just said, it might not be that bad if we just let this shutdown go over into November. What's the
I
worst
was
thing that
just,
can happen?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
I'd love
really
to
feel like
talk
shitty.
more
We
on
could just
that
that's
not
the
too.
way
publish
that these
this.
guys are. And you look at it and it's like, okay, from the word go, they just were not in a rush to open the government back up.
Yeah.
Mike
I'm
Johnson
surprised it
sends
opened.
everybody home, for which it turns out to be like the longest, where of Congress just being shut down, or the House anyway, I think in 50 years. And so anyway, all that to say, my wife was like, you need to just come out and say it. So
Yeah.
I knew I had at least one person behind me when I wrote that. But anyway, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I like to think about. It's not always bad. I've got a lot of stories I mean, there's one sitting on the shelf that there are more than one, okay? But the point is, it's not always this dire. I like to just, I spent a lot of time in finance. I mean, and really from the early 80s to the mid 2000s, so like 2012. And I got to experience a lot of crazy stuff. I'm actually writing a book that one day I will complete, just on, I spent my career is almost split down the middle between the good old boy infrastructure or ecosystem of the Deep South, and on the other hand, the Wall Street, which is a very similar but very different at the same time. You got your racism; it's just different in New York than it is in Arkansas, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm writing this book about. But that's also what informs the way I look at all these different things that we're experiencing. I've just got, I'm sort of blessed to have a really bizarre perspective on stuff. And I always tell people my superpower, and this kind of just to echo what you said a minute ago, Shane, is that I can take something pretty complicated and not dumb it down, but just make it where it doesn't take, like a foot long paragraph to explain. And usually what I do, just like in this story, um, I start off talking about something personal that I've experienced and kind of paint that picture. And, hopefully at the end of it, people come away and they know a little bit more about something, and they kind of get to hear, some real stuff that's actual reality, and not just like you're reading it out of a textbook, right? So my newsletter is the Journeyman. It's the Journeyman at thejourneyman.substack.com. Everything is free to read. I don't do paywalls, and all I ask is if you can support it, believe me, it goes a long way. And I should, just a plug. I'm doing the sort of Black Friday thing, so there's actually a discount for annual subscriptions that I think is pretty fair, and it's forever. I just try to make it where if somebody's interested in supporting, I try to make it where it's easy to do. And when you support my work financially, I'm actually trying to do some things, and I'll talk about it, just over the coming week or so. But just sort of to take what we're all trying to do to a different level, and I'm trying to use some of my stuff I learned in my former life to make it where, look, I won't be coy about it. I looked at what happened with Paramount Skydance, and the fact that we basically had a person monetize their newsletter. We may not like what they write, but you look at what happened with Barry Weiss. Her newsletter developed into a media company or a news desk, however you want to look at it. And I think Paramount Skydance paid too much, but they paid $150 million. And it's not something, it is something that can be replicated, in my view. And I think I've kind of come up with a sensible way, not to necessarily be the next free press, but maybe a collaboration that's our version, maybe a better version of that. And so that's kind of where I'm looking to go. So, when people
Let's
subscribe,
chat after this, because that's very
Oh
much
yeah.
in line, I think, with the universal goal. There's a certain consensus within our community, at least me and Nick, that
yeah,
the alternative media that so spearheaded the movement has kind of fallen into the traps of, American exceptionalism, and it's time for independent people to come together and do what we're doing now,
yeah,
to build that network, because it is arguably more powerful than one central voice, and so we'll definitely talk about that offline.
for sure.
Yeah.
So
Guys,
yeah, I mean, that's,
go subscribe
my
to.
next step is to try to make my live streams look as good as you guys.
Well,
So,
that's one of the
so
things that Banner and Backbone helps with. So if
Ooh.
I'm definitely going to have some talks with you after, because this is amazing. This fits it, like Shane said, it fits. We're all coming to this same conclusion at the same time, and now we're just getting it together. And I think we're all. Marlon is going to be, I think, going to be a key part of this. Since we've had him on twice, this man has had some amazing conversations. He's all over our community, just in general. And I 100% say, go subscribe. Hit that, click the QR code or scan it, whatever way direction it is from us. However you get there, hit the subscribe to in the top left corner if you're in Substack, because that subscribes to all three of us plus Banner and Backbone. But man, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Marlon. Like the network idea and like that model, because we've been talking about it. Zev Shalev is talking about it, folks like that. Like there's a need and a hunger for it where it's not owned by prior corporate executives or folks who aren't quite as independent.
Just using the example that I gave of the free press, I mean, the way she did it was, it's sort of the traditional way people scale up businesses, where you have, they have their startup, which was her leaving the New York Times, coming here. And there was a certain amount of support, I guess, that Substack gave her. But at the end of the day, you got Mark Andreessen, who's behind Substack. And he was the lead on their first two rounds. And he kind of stepped back, and another VC, stepped up on the last one that they did for Substack this summer. But the point is, he also invested directly in her business. And if you think about it, these guys are looking, and he got his exit with, this when it was sold to Paramount. I'm not really interested in having the pressure of VCs, and because it makes you do stuff you don't necessarily want to do. And I don't mean it's bad. It's just that you look at Substack, you can tell the crescendo is going to be maybe next year, maybe the year after, they're going to go public. And then when you go public, that introduces a whole lot of other responsibilities, but it's just, I don't want to live that way where I got to answer to shareholders and be thinking about, 1 month ahead instead of 5 years, right? So I think that there are other ways that you can, if not, raise that kind of money. But we can go to a different level without having to go beg a billionaire for some money, or go to a venture capital firm or something like that. And I think I kind of got it figured out, but we'll see.
I love it.
We'll definitely chat about it.
Yeah, I cannot wait to talk more on this.
Yeah.
And so
go subscribe
again,
to Marlon. Do it.
Yeah, go subscribe to Marlon. If you haven't
pressure.
already, you have missed like 10 minutes of being able to subscribe to Marlon. You've been able
What are you doing?
You've missed an hour and 40 minutes of being able to subscribe to Marlon. What are you even doing? Go subscribe to Marlon already. And then with subscribing to Marlon too, go subscribe to the Firebrand Project and the biggest firebrand out there, Shane Yirak. Sell yourself real quick, brother.
Yeah, so a lot of you know who I am, but if you don't, if it's your first time seeing me, I do a lot of things over at the Firebrand Project. I do investigative journalism. It's one of my passions. I've kind of evolved into looking into the dirty deeds of Thiel, and I'm looking at Jared Kushner specifically. I've started a slog, the Kushner Files, in which I am diving very deep into Jared Kushner and his life and all of his dealings, a timeline of all of his events. I just started. I was working this morning on the second Kushner file, so that should be out this week. That's one of the cool things I'm doing. I also do the Firebrand Report every day. So it's a daily news show where I touch on three highlights, highlights in the terms of what's important, not what's great or, you should be excited about, but per se, three highlights of something from the day. And then I give you not only just the news, but also a geopolitical analysis with that. So it's all about giving you guys a big picture idea. And that's what, I always say my tagline is forging dialogue and burning bright. That's what firebrands do. We speak out against the system and come be a firebrand because it's cool. And eventually one of these days we'll get merch or something. Once I have, once we get to a point where I can hire someone to do it and all that stuff. So that's a reason to become a paid subscriber, because I can promise you that I want to turn my profits. I want to actually hire a researcher. I want to grow. I want to be able to get more people involved in the unearthing of all of this stuff. So my goal is to build a team of researchers that are able to do this full time. So if you want to support the Firebrand Project, that's where it's going to go, is essentially a think tank. Where you have people doing and uncovering corruption full time. So if you're thinking about why do I want to subscribe to this, you're not just subscribing to support me. You're subscribing to build a resource that will work to uncover corruption for everyone. It's meant to be something for everyone. So if not, it's okay. Become a free subscriber, because there's still got to be a firebrand. You got to come hang out. You get notifications when I go live and whatnot. So do that. Thank you for scanning the QR code. I see you.
Yeah, whoever you are, thanks for scanning the QR code.
But yeah, that's what I got for you. And I hope to see you today, every day, 2 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. EST. What does that make it? It makes it 4 p.m. CST. So I can't do UTC. So come see me.
Where's your UTC standard there, Shane? Come on. I want like,
you gotta put me on
I
the
need you down
like
to
that.
the nanosecond. Like you better be given in like millisecond time based off of the computer's clock. Let's go. Come on now, Shane. Off the top of your head, brother. But yeah, go support Firebrand.
Go be a firebrand. Everyone wants to be a firebrand. You gotta burn bright. You gotta be like, hey, I'm a firebrand. They'll be like, that sounds cool. You don't even have to, that's cool. Can I be one? Absolutely. Here's the Firebrand Project. Boom.
There you go. And another firebrand just joined
love
too.
It. I love it.
And then I'm gonna sell myself. Is Sick of This Shit Publications. That's my home. We're going from sick of this shit to doing this shit. It's where I do my chronic illness discussions. It's where I do community building and write poetry and discuss things through a lens of tech deconstruction and veteran issues, but through my chronic illness. It's my journey through chronic illness and how I'm trying to build a community that cares and gives back and works for each other. And with each other, as well as have some of these really bold discussions that we have here on Palantalk, but also just my normal discussions and getting to connect folks across platforms. That's my favorite thing to do. Is I like connecting people. I like talking and meeting. And if you haven't noticed, I don't always shut up. But I like talking to people, and I like getting everybody connected into various places. And we have 300 people on Substack right now. We have 4 viewers on different platforms. We're on 3 different streaming platforms right now. What I'm planning to do is I'm using Sick of This Shit Publications to be one of my main homes, but a lot of what I do is I feed this back into the support business and how I structure it. And hopefully eventually, like Shane was talking about for his side, but for mine is get a production assistant. I do all the background production work for Banner and Backbone and Sick of This Shit publications. You want our show
I'll stop
titles and
annoying him. If I'll stop bothering him to get a project manager. So help Nick
get a
stop
project
hearing
manager.
me, so he doesn't have to hear me all the time telling him to get a project manager because he doesn't sleep. So help Nick sleep and subscribe.
And be able to write more poetry.
Yes. Help Nick sleep and write poetry by becoming a paid subscriber to Sick of This Shit and Banner and Backbone, because this is Banner and Backbone Network. This is what we do here. And coming to you soon, a finance show with Marlon Weems, because I'm not going to let it go. So it's happening. And Nick
Shane's pretty convincing, Marlon. So you're going to have a hard time letting him go.
It's going to be that hard.
Good. And like Shane said, support Banner and Backbone, because this is where we're putting it together. This is a tool. This is going to be a community tool that's going to fund and help support a lot of the other initiatives that we're doing, such as Melissa's 1A Collective, which is a separate resource that is not owned by billionaires, that is going to be owned by us as a co-op and as collaborators and as the community. A FinTalk. Ooh, I like that.
FinTalk?
Yeah. I was part of FinTech for a while, so you guys can have some FinTalk. Go on our Palantalk to FinTalk. I like this. But support Banner and Backbone, we also just opened up founding subscribers. So for $250 a year, become a or more. If you want to pledge a larger donation for growth, that is what's going to really help us go to the next level, where we can then possibly move to subscriptions that are off Substack, to our own systems, hiring product managers, hiring assistants, hiring people who can help build this community, but also stabilizing everything we're doing. It's more of a co-op. That's what I want it to be. It's a co-op. It's a community collaborative event for all of us. It's democracy as a network. And so we've got a lot of really cool, big things planned here. And a lot that we want to be able to and can do and are going to do. And we need y'all's help. We are not taking big, huge, mega donor contributions. The left wing does not have contributor funds right now to help support in a lot of ways. Major networks, Midas Touch, I'm going to call you out again as always, are not contributing back to the smaller networks and paying it forward. And we want to be the model to do that. We want to be the model to pay it forward. So come support Banner and Backbone and help us.
Cancel your Midas subscription. Come give your money to Nick and me and Marlon instead, because we will talk about Peter Thiel. We will say his name. I don't know. Maybe Ben Meiselas is allergic to corruption. I think that might be it. I don't know. But yeah, Mr. Ben Meiselas, you need to take some allergy pills so you can tell the truth and not be another terrible day in the White House as Donald Trump fails and gets $1 trillion investment from you. He didn't fail.
Yeah, we don't rage bait here. We just talk facts and truth.
We just rage.
Sometimes we rage, but we don't rage bait. So thank you all, everybody, for coming and joining us today. Please hit that heart one more time if you're on Substack. If you're elsewhere, please follow us on YouTube, on Twitch, subscribe wherever you can, and look out for the show notes after the show. We're going to have links to Marlon's article. We're going to have links to everybody and everything we talked about, the space talk, and an extra link in there from a very long YouTube video that Shane has sent me that I'm going to watch. That's probably incredibly cool. So look out for that in all of our post show notes. It's been an incredible almost 2 hours with you guys. And I cannot wait to spend some more time with you, Marlon. Shane, I look forward to your next show, and everyone in the audience, will see you again soon. Thanks, y'all. And have a
Arturo and me tomorrow. Firebrands United with Arturo Dominguez tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Latin America. That's a lot going on. Arturo's the man, so put that on your calendar as well. 10 a.m. PST.
And that's we have some feedback in the audience saying people are excited to hear about a Marlon Finance show and possible Marlon Shane collaboration here on Banner and Backbone. Capturing it at the 1 hour and 50-minute mark is, and earlier, because we've talked about it a couple times now. We'll get Marlon here. Thanks, everyone. Marlon, any last thoughts before we go?
Oh, man. I just appreciate you guys having me on. I enjoy the conversation and, got a little Neil deGrasse Tyson style education on Methuselah.
We're trying to get Bill Nye. We're going to do it.
Yeah, hey, that's my goal, is I want Bill Nye on here. I want to get Bill Nye on for a science show.
All right. That would be
would be the goal. So thank you again, Marlon, Shane, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Happy Thanksgiving. For those who see this before Thanksgiving, be safe, be educated, be alert, and join our upcoming Tricentennial Action Group, because tag, you're it for democracy. And we have and before we end, because we never actually say the slogan is here, welcome and thanks for joining us on Palantalk, where we have tech, no fascism.
Tech, no fascism. Say it with us at home. Tech, no fascism.
No fascism. Thanks, y'all.